My name is Tyler Kime, and I did my media project on the movie McFarland, USA. McFarland, USA is about overcoming various obstacles for these Hispanic kids in the small town of McFarland. These kids would have to work all day in the fields with their parents, and then by the end of their lifetime, most would end up in jail or just working in the fields for their whole lives. And when these kids decided to join the cross-country team, it changed their lives forever. The reason I enjoy this movie so much is because it's a classic feel-good story where the underdog team is able to come out of nowhere and do the impossible. And these types of movies always get me pumped up and motivated to go out and get active. After watching the movie, it has shown me that there are plenty of people in this world that are living far less fortunate lives, and no matter the obstacle, there's always a way to find success. Now let's get to the actual movie itself. In the opening scene, it shows Coach Jim White coaching a football team in Boise, Idaho. While in the locker room at halftime, he got in an argument with one of his players and threw a cleat at the locker next to him, and it ricocheted off the locker, cutting the player's face. This event ended up getting him fired and having to move to the small town of McFarland, California. This act not only changed his life, but it changed many of the students' kids' lives. During his PE class, he made the kids run a lap around the track and noticed that some of the kids were really fast. So the coach decided to start up a cross-country team, which at the time was only a private school sport. Coach White had no experience coaching or even running cross-country before this, but he saw so much potential in these kids that he did whatever it took to create the 7-man roster needed. The team consisted of Thomas, who was the fastest runner on the team and one of the fastest in the state, and Danny Diaz, who was a big guy who was on the team with his other two brothers. The rules of cross country state that you must have 7 runners start the race, but only the top 5 will be counted. Most of the runners on the team had to wake up very early to go pick in the fields and then go to school and have to return back to the fields after school. This made it very difficult for those kids because they would have to pick early in the morning, then go to school, and then practice. In response to this, Coach White decided to go out to the fields and help the Diaz family pick crops. Coach White was able to experience their way of living and the hardship it took for them to go through their daily lives. Thomas had his own set of extra problems because when his dad arrived back home, he was very upset and started to shout and hit things, so Thomas went over to hold him back. While doing this, he got punched in the face a couple times and left a bunch of marks. Later that night, Coach White was driving under a bridge and saw Thomas sitting on the edge of it. Coach proceeded to cheer him up and tell him that running is the best thing he had, so Thomas began to start training harder than ever. This goes to show the resilient the entire team was facing their own challenges every day. They began to do very well, and then during a dual meet, Thomas was able to outsprint the leader during the final stretch and won the race, and the team won the meet. Team really started to come together and they all started having a good time, and the runners even gave their coach the nickname Coach Blanco, of course referring to that white in Spanish as Blanco. In one of the runners' English papers, they mentioned how running on the team changed their life and was giving them hope for the future. After one of the races, Coach White took the team to a nearby beach, and this was the first time many of the kids have even seen the ocean. The kids were ecstatic and ran immediately into the ocean, jumping and having a blast as the coach looked on and smiled. The town was also a main reason for the team's success. They were able to come together and raise money for the team's uniforms, and they also held a quinceañera for the coach's daughter that was able to boost the spirits of everybody. They also all came together to wish the team good luck as they left to travel for the state championship meet, including one man who closed his store for the first time in 26 years to wish the team on. Before the race was set to begin, Coach White gave this inspirational speech to the runners before the meet was set to begin. Coach White gave this inspirational speech to the runners before the race.
Everybody gather around. Come on. I want you to look around. Best in the state, right? Every team that's here deserves to be, including you. They haven't got what you got, right? They don't get up at dawn like you and go to work in the fields, right? They don't go to school all day. and then go back to those same fields. That's what you do. And then you come out with me and you run 8 miles, 10 miles, and you take on even more pain. These kids don't do what you do. They can't even imagine it. When I went out in the field that day with you Diaz kids, I'll be honest with you, it was the worst day's work I ever had to do in my life. And I said to myself, whatever kind of crappy job I end up in, it'll never be as tough as that. You kids do it every day. And your parents hope they can do it every day. And they'll do it for a lifetime if it means a better life for you. You guys are superhuman. What you endure just to be here, to get a shot at this, the kind of privilege that someone like me takes for granted. There's nothing you can't do with that kind of strength, with that kind of heart. The kids have the biggest hearts I've ever seen. Go run your race. Tom Shook, you're the captain. Hey, Coach. Want to call it? Uno, dos, tres.
Defying!
In this speech, Coach White tells his runners that no other school students have been through the amount of adversity that they have gone through and that they were stronger than anyone else out there. When the race began, one of the runners went out too fast and ended up running out of energy in the later stages of the race. Once he started to fall back, Danny Diaz noticed this and knew that he would have to make up some points by picking up the pace. And he did this by charging through the field and becoming the number 5 runner on the team with a crazy late race sprint, which I will show you now. His amazing effort was enough for the team to win the 1987 Californian State Championship. The team was able to do it. They were able to win the entire thing, and it changed all their lives forever, allowing for most of the kids to go to college, which wasn't even a thought in their mind before Coach White entered their lives. Again, the reason why I love this movie so much is because they all go through so much adversity, and they still find a way to overcome massive odds to win the state championship. As a former cross-country runner myself, I find special interest in the journey because I also once had the dream to qualify for state, but my journey was nowhere near as tough as theirs was. The characters in this movie had to overcome the wildest of odds, and they were still able to do it, and it would change their lives forever.